Welcome back to the home of the Horse Lords. This time Keith and I have 2.5 days to complete board 3 out of 4. If you've not seen part 1, go and check that out because there's spoilers in this video. For those that have watched part 1, we are building Edoras on a completely modular 4x4 Warhammer Gaming Board. In this video we look at building a watchtower, a stables and a blacksmith on the road up to the Golden Hall. Last time we finished the gatehouse and the second level with a couple of different style houses, the Pallisades and the water well, trying to get the most screen accurate scenery with these Games Workshop plastic kits. Time is of the essence, but there's no doubt that war is coming to Rohan. If you're enjoying the Middle Earth content, hit that subscribe button down below and strap in hobbits because we're going on an adventure. As you know, I had already constructed the base a few weeks back with standard insulation foam, and Keith and I are predicting a few days of early mornings and late nights alongside running a business and the day job of getting this finished. The insulation foam was literally all we had left over, and to be honest it's a pain because you have to peel the silver paper off first before gluing it down. Using grey foam is the way forward, chaps, because not only is it easier to work with, but also if the board ever gets scratched or lightly damaged, it's grey underneath instead of a bright yellow foam colour. So we started by planning out the buildings and joining up the sloping road from one board to the next. A huge source of our inspiration was the Rohan display board at Warhammer World, and if you've not been to Nottingham and seen it in the flesh, then I highly recommend you do. It really gets those creative juices flowing. After the debates and conversations had begun, trying to decide how best to use the rest of the kits and pieces we had left, we eventually decided upon building the Watchtower exactly as the box suggests, lifting it onto a rocky platform though to give it some more height. We then decided upon 2 more buildings, a lively stables and a fiery blacksmith. I aimed to recreate the captivating shot as Gandalf and the 3 hunters entered the stronghold.
Blacksmith, stables, longhouses, we push the new Rohan house kits to the limit as we check out
Lackey
some complex
created
designs.
a video about how he converted multiple Rohan sets, and I was so inspired, but I just didn't have enough kits or time to replicate what he had done, so I had to improvise a little. For the blacksmith, I actually ordered a few props online that we could use inside a sheltered stony building next to a little outhouse which was custom built from grey foam. Keith began working on this using the plastic Rohan house as a guide. He cut the walls from grey foam and carved the timber slats into it. These plastic kits could easily be the crown jewels of Games Workshop's terrain, rivaling even the brand new Gondor mansion and tower that's just been released. Nearly everything you see here has been used from the Stronghold kit, with the additional extra of 1 house and 1 watchtower kit. I haven't even thought about how many we'll need for Edoras, or if we build it from scratch. Let me know in the comments, how many Rohan houses do you think we'll need, or should we build it freehand? As Keith worked diligently on the blacksmith, my watchtower was taking some good shape, and after all the pieces were glued in place, we then cut out a base of grey foam which I thought we could use as a slight hill sloping up to the tower. There's a moment in the Return of the King after the beacons have been lit and Rohan answers the call. It is for sure one of the most anticipating and also underrated scenes because we all know what is coming next. Theoden rides out with Aragon and Aemir by his side and an army of horsemasters at his back. The key to really effective looking stonework is to actually use a little piece of scrunched up silver foil and gradually press it into the foam. Then using a pencil or a pen, draw back over the carvings to really make the stone markings stand out. Once all the pieces were in place, we then used strong PVA glue to slot everything together for our blacksmith, adding a few little details here and there, including a plastic sign from the Lake Town house kit and some fences. The buildings were in place and we could begin to see this board taking shape. However, this was now the evening of our first day and still so much to do. The barn I was building, I decided to extend the entrance by using an extra porch, cut the windows out and have the stables inside. However, the joins weren't very smooth, so I used green stuff to fill in the gaps, which you'll see in a moment. I also created a paddock for the horses, which was fenced off on the base. First thing the next day, we covered the board with grout and sprayed it with PVA glue to allow it to stick and dry over 24 hours. As I mentioned, the joins on the barn weren't very smooth, so I used liquid green stuff to cover all the edges and gaps between the roof joins. Finally, we moved into the painting stage. With not long to go, I had a mammoth of a task to get 3 buildings painted and the Pallisades, cover the board and then add all the static grass. Seemed impossible. Starting with our stables, I undercoated the model with Mechanicus Standard Grey and then started dry brushing the roof with Zandri dust, gradually getting lighter for the thatched roof. For the wood effect, I applied a series of washes and then dry brushing over the top. Think lots of green, browns and greys. For the full Warhammer reference video I'll link it in the description. Inside our barn, I wanted to add some stables, so I added a few fences, a barrel and plenty of little details like the horses' reins and some ropes. For the Pallisades, I started with a base coat of Rhinox hide, gradually getting lighter to the tip of the spike, using Carrick stone and a very fine highlight of Yashabati bone. Painting the baseboard was a mix of Rhinox hide as a base coat brown, followed by highlights of Dryad bark and then Carrick stone. It was really important to try and match this board with the previous two, however there wasn't much time to do this. This was now the morning of our 3rd day together. Keith and I only had a few hours left, so we decided to cover the board in flock and static grass as quickly as possible. Using the same tufts of grass from the previous boards, we applied these down in a variety of places across the model, and then used a blended mix of flock from Woodland Scenics to get the desired effect. As you can see, the colour match is still not quite right, so I will need to go back over this before the board is completely finished. While I was busy covering the board in flock, Keith continued to pick out the little highlights of paint that was needed and also managed to squeeze in making a little banner to sit beneath our watchtower. It's the details like this that really matter to me and bring the board to life. There is still an endless amount of painting and detailing to do on this board, not to mention matching everything with levels 1 and 2, but for now I'm pretty happy with the progress we made. Given the time limit, we have covered a lot of ground. Deep down I knew we wouldn't really get the whole board finished, but I wanted to at least get the majority of painting done and the rest of the ground cover. Sadly, that will have to wait until next time. This was an unbelievable 2.5 days, and even though we didn't complete the challenge, I'm still rating this as a huge success. I'm absolutely loving how it's coming together, and I hope you are too. Stay tuned guys, the best is yet to come in this massive Edoras build, the Golden Hall itself.